Yuri?
Are you ready?
I think I am ready.
I can't see anything on my screen.
Okay. Well,
your name is in the middle of my screen.
Oh, I will turn that off. Gallery view. I need to turn me off. Stop video, hide self view. Well, I'll start my video again.
Okay.
Well, hi, everybody. I am Blake Kevin. I'm the owner of FacePaint.com. I'm here with Pam Kinneberg. We are live at this very second. And I want to welcome you guys. I know this is a tough time for you guys. No birthday parties, no face paint. It's just one of those things. It's pretty awful. But, you know, life goes on. And we're going to be seeing some great designs. And, you know, in a couple months, I feel this is going to be over. And we're going to look back on this and cry. But at any rate, I'm thrilled to have Pam Kinneberg. She is always delightful. And this should raise all our spirits. So with that, Pam, it's all yours.
Sweet. All right. Thanks, Blake.
Sure.
All right. I'm going to put some glasses on here and get going. I've got 3 designs and I'm hoping to make it to all 3, but it seems like every time I do this, I make it to 2 of them and then I'm out of time. So we will give it a good effort to do the best I can to get through these. And the first one that I'm going to do is a Easter basket kitty. And it's kind of a fun twist on a cat face. So let's get going with that. I'm going to load some Craze White on a Craze petal sponge. And I'm going to use a couple of different sponges, but this one I'm going to use first. One thing I like about this sponge is it's a little bigger than some of the smaller sponges. This is a different petal sponge there, and so the size is quite a bit different. You can cover a lot more area with this one. So I'm actually going to be using both of these because I'll use this for another purpose. But let's go with this one first. So I've loaded it with white, and we're going to just start with putting in a muzzle. That'll be our first thing that we do with this cat. And I'm going to try to get this even on both sides. Muzzles are sort of my nemesis to try to get them correct. But we will give it our best shot here. And then I'm just going to bring this white up around the eyes on the lids, over on this side, up around the lid. And just tapping that in. And then I'm going to put a little bit of the top of her head here. And they're nice because they are in the shape of an ear. So we'll just put an ear right here. And then an ear over on this side. Try to get them equal in size. One looks a little bigger than the other. Mm-hmm. All right. Fix this part down here. My sponge was a little wet. It's a little hard to know the consistency when you're working on these boards. Okay, so there we have a white area, and I'm gonna just take a little baby wipe here and just kind of clean up my edges a little bit and clean around these eyes. If you're using these boards to display your designs, you always want to clean these eyes off because they can't close their eyes on these little boards. And I'm just going to even out my muzzle and then bring my lips back in, and then we'll start with the rest of it. All right, so there's our white. The next thing, like when I was comparing these 2 sponges, this one worked really good to spread a lot of that white around, but this one, the smaller one, I'm going to use for the sides because it's more of the shape. a smaller size, and I just need a smaller size in there. This one is a little too big for that shape. So, you know, you can use them for different purposes. And I'm using, in this design, I'm just using a Fusion Prime Pink Sorbet. It's a really bright pink, a very Eastery sort of color. And this is what I'm using for the cheek areas.
Gilbert, you're here. I missed you.
So I'm just going to tap that right in here where the cheeks of the kitty would be. And then both sides. Just tap that in. And I want to, when you're doing these designs, little kitty, it's really, I really like to keep that face just really right in this smaller area rather than bringing it too far out. I think they're cuter when you keep them smaller and more compact. And so there we've got our pink in there, and I'm going to load a little bit more pink because I want it in a couple of more different areas. And I'm just spraying my sponge rather than spraying my cake. And I'm going to put a little bit right up here, and you'll see why I'm doing that a little bit later. Only going to put about like halfway through there because that's going to be our Easter basket handle up there. And again, this is a nice little point, and it works good to put a little pink in those ears. Just like that. And there we have our pink. So I'm going to put that away. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start the basket. I call this an Easter basket cat because we're going to make this look like an Easter basket. And I have some pictures here that I downloaded of different baskets and weaves. And this is right here, kind of the look I'm going to be going for. So I just had something, I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing when I was designing this. So I went through and I just looked at all different types of baskets and chose to kind of go more for this look and this weave. So to do that, I'm going to start with, let me find my brush here. I'm just going to use a #1 round low Cornell brush. And I'm using purple craze paint to make some lines so that I have the structure of the basket so I know where everything's going. So the first line I'm going to do, I'm just going to create some horizontal lines that would, if you had an imaginary line that went from side to side, it would go from here and then curve and go all the way across. Of course, I won't be doing it over the nose. So I'll do a few different lines to give myself where I'm going to go. I'm just going to bring it up here. And so I'm doing sort of a curved sort of line. And I'll do another one here. I'll do about 4 or 5 rows here.
And you guys, if you have any questions or whatever, please ask and feel free. Hi, Ivona.
So there I know where my rows are. And I'm going to just finish off the edges in kind of like a more of a rounded edge. Like that. Would sort of look like the edge of a basket with all of the different woven areas in there. There's that. And that's all I'm going to do with my purple right at this time. I'm going to come back in with purple a little bit later, but I have to establish where those lines are going first. And then I'm going to take a flat brush, and I believe that this brush came in the palette, the Craze palette of paints that I got. Oh man, I thought I was using something else. I think that's where it came from, a palette. I'm not really sure. It has the number 4 on it. It's a really narrow flat brush, and this is what I'm going to use for the little woven in areas. I'm going to start with Paradise Teal. And just put some squares in there. This top part is the top of the basket, so I'm not going to put them into there. I'm going to start on the second row. And because it's square, I can get these in really quickly. And just put them like that. And then I'm going to put 2 more down here. And you can put those in super quick like that. And then I'm going to do a couple purple ones also. And I've got Purple Rain here from Fab or Superstar. Mm-hmm. And these are going to go on the next row because we're alternating. I'm going to put one there and one right in the middle. I got to get more paint.
Hi, Nicole.
And one on the edge, and then I'm going to put one down on the bottom. Whoops, right here.
Huh.
So there I got
That's really
my little deals there. And then to give a little bit of highlight to it, I'm going to add just a touch of white. And I'm going to have, my brush isn't going to be very wet. It's going to be quite dry, almost like a dry brush, loaded with some white. I'm just going to make sure I don't have much on there. And then you can kind of go in and just make, just make a little white area, almost like the little piece of woven area is raised. So
which white are you using?
I am using Craze White.
Jeez.
How about that?
that?
I love Craze White. It's a great paint.
Thank you.
So I'm just putting some highlights in here with this. And of course it reacts different on the board than it does on your skin. So yeah, always the case.
But in the great way, words of Kathy Vergara, face painting is never saying you're sorry.
Right.
It's art. It's art.
Art, right. Okay, so there we've got some highlights in there for the art. And the other thing, let's see. The other thing I wanted to do while I was in my purple is right above where the eyelids are. These are going to be Easter eggs up here that go on the eyelids. So we're going to put in a line so I know where those are going, so I can work on my spots. And we're just going to do sort of a loop that goes like that. Kind of a thick to thin, and we're going to end up right in the corner of the eye. We're going to go from this corner to that corner in sort of a slanted loop. Mm-hmm. So that we've got our little eggs right there. And then while I've got my brush out, I'm going to start painting some polka dots on these eggs.
Hey, Jennifer.
There's one, and then I'm going to put one right here. And now the next color I'm going to use is a teal color. Again, like these, like the stripes in there. And I'm going to be using a little drop paint pal brush. I really use this one a lot. It's got just a really little filbert, and it's just so handy for so many things. So I'm going to be putting a bow right up here to the side, this. And I want to be able to see some of that handle, so I'm not going to cover all that pink area right there. Put that off to the side. And when you're painting these designs, it's a great way to, you know, when you practice and stuff, just really think about what colors you're putting on and when you're putting them on, so that you efficiently use your colors in the most efficient way possible, so you don't have to keep dipping back into the same color of paint. So if you can complete all of the, you know, teal parts or all of the, sometimes it's impossible to do that with the way a design is, but if you can do that, all at one time with one color, so you don't have to go back in it. That's a great way to do it. So try to do as much as you can with each color. So I'm just putting that
Now
little.
that takes a certain amount of organization.
It does, and what it takes is doing the design several times, so you get it down and you figure out what's the best order to use.
Right.
And you'll figure it out once you do it enough times. Now I'm gonna put some teal dots in here. I'm gonna put one right here. I'm making each side a little different so they're not exactly the same, just to give it some variety. And so there are my teal areas. And then the final kind of background color before I start outlining is more of this pink sorbet here. And this is going to be used for the nose. So on my nose, I kind of start on the side of the nose and kind of come down in the middle and go back up. And this little brush is really good to use for noses. Gets it all on there. And then I like to put glitter on the nose. So you can use, actually I usually use my finger and then just dab it on. But on this board, that's not going to work very well. So I'm just going to dab it on with my paintbrush here.
Okay.
And so that right in the center of your design, you have this focal point, this nose that's all glittery, and it's really quite, it works really well because it gives a really nice shine to the center of your design. And it draws the attention to that cute little glitter nose. It's really pretty.
Great.
And then finally with my pink, I'm going to add the pink dots to this egg here. So I'm only having three large dots on the Easter egg. And, you know, obviously her eye would be closed and I would be putting this pink one and this teal one more on her eyelid. But when her eyes are open, you're only going to see that small portion of it. So there we have our base of our design. And the next thing that I'm going to do is then just do most of the outlining at this point. So I'm taking this purple color. I'm not going to have black in this design at all. I'm keeping it in the pastel colors for Easter. So I'm taking this darker purple. It's the same purple I've used in here. And I'm going to do my outlines with it. And I'm going to start right at the top and kind of work on my bow and try to get as much thicks and thin lines as you can rather than all one width, just to give it a nice finished look to that one didn't work so well, to the line work. And I like this, I'm using a #1 Lowell Cornell because I want my lines to be on more the thinner side if I can. And this brush allows me to do that. It's a little harder on a board like this to get really nice thin lines. They tend to want to get thicker on these boards.
Regina thinks that's cute.
Oh, thanks, Regina.
Kathy, I was quoting you earlier.
What?
Kathy Alessandra's joined in. She's the one that says that no one should say sorry, face painting. That's her quote. She's gonna have a T-shirt made up.
I didn't quite get all that, so.
She's the one that kept saying to face paint is to never say sorry.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see. Okay. I don't catch everything all the time. Okay, I'm gonna paint the ear right in here so I know where my ear is. And just gonna put some lines in here. And now where I know where my ear is, then I'm gonna paint that handle of the basket at the top, right here. So I'm gonna do sort of basket loops like this. Curve them at the bottom. So now we have a handle to the basket up there. Finish painting that. Finish the other ear.
Now, how would that nose change if you had a real face? I mean, would it?
This nose, how would it change?
Yeah.
Well, the sides go down, you know, so you're only going to see more this top part. And every kid's nose is different too, but I can show you here. I have a picture of it on myself. So that's with a three-dimensional nose. And so it's pretty much the same as what it's on here, except, you know, it goes down on the sides. And you gotta start on those sides. All right, and so now we'll do the muzzle area. And we're going to write up and meet these lines. Well, we don't have to actually meet them, but that's where we're headed up with our line. I'm not going to actually meet it. I'm just going to stop a little bit right in there. And then this side. So we've got that muzzle. And then we're going to put the little loops on. And I like to do those loops that kind of come out on the side a little bit here. And when you're doing them, you're all headed up to kind of a center point here. So you kind of want to make sure that they are curved a little bit rather than straight. And it helps to do this left side first if you're right-handed, so that when you're doing this side over here, you can see what you did rather than covering it up with your hand. And that's something that I've been working on because I'm so right-handed. I always want to do the right-hand side first. And then I'm like, oh, shoot, I should have started with the left. Okay, these lines didn't get as good on that side, but there we go. And then that center little division down on the kitty there. And I'm going to finish off my basket too. I'm going to put my final lines on there. Again, this top is that same sort of basket weave as this top handle. And when you're doing this under the eye, you just do it a little bit lower. Obviously, these eyes, like, it looks like it's touching them. And you wouldn't do that in real life. So. And then just curve them up on the bottom. Like that. And then I'm going to go and just finish off my lines here by putting lines on either side of these colored areas to make them stand out more.
So if you were doing that in a fair or a birthday party, how long would this take you?
Well, you know, depends on how practiced up at this point, because I haven't really done this on anybody yet. It might take me like 7-8 minutes. But I'd like to, you know, get it down to more like 5.
Right.
In a perfect world. And sometimes you can leave off certain
You're not living in a perfect world.
No, and I tend to be more of a slower painter. I'm not super fast. So, and I like to put all these.
Tori thinks that's very pretty.
Oh, thank you. Now we're just gonna finish. I'm just gonna put some highlights in there to kind of make areas pop.
It says, don't forget the hairs in the right ear. I don't know what that means.
I did them. I had forgotten them and I just did them now.
Okay.
So I'm just putting highlights on the bow to make that sort of come alive and keep it in the foreground.
Gilbert thinks that's so good.
Thank you. And I put highlights up here on this basket handle.
That's just, yeah.
And highlights on this top part here. These highlights just really give it a lot of contrast and make it more dimensional. This white is always you know, it's like I hate to skip the highlight step because it just makes everything pop. And you can go at the tops of these areas too.
Linda thinks that's a sweet kitty, as does Sophia.
Oh, thank you guys. My Easter basket kitty. And then finally, let's do the lips quick. And we're going to do it in this pink color. And give her.
Linda Comp says you could change the cat to an Easter bunny.
You could. But then, yeah, you could do an Easter bunny.
Yeah, I just make the big.
Absolutely. And then I'm going to just dab some glitter on those lips.
There you go.
And that is my Easter basket kitty.
Nice. Hi, Kristen.
And I don't think I left out anything. I think it's all there. Yay. And we'll be posting pictures of these that I did on myself. So you can see them on a real person after the webinar is over. So you can go and look at those. Like this one I just showed you, you know, how I painted it on myself. Those pictures will be posted for you.
When did you do that? Right. You wrote down all the ingredients, everything on it?
Did I on?
Oh, no, on that PDF that you were just showing up.
I didn't, but I have them here that I could send you another email.
No, it's okay.
Another one and let you have that if you wanted.
Sure.
Okay, so our next design is going to be a Tulip Princess. And this one uses a couple stencils, and I'm going to show you how I paint a tulip. And it's going to be a really pretty design for girls. So we're going to start this one off.
Let me make a couple of announcements.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on FacePaintcom, I know you guys are not buying a lot of face paint right now, but if you were to, we have free shipping on all U.S. orders over $20 while this virus is going on, while this crisis is sort of crises. So try to help you guys out as best we can. And the other thing we got going on is, of course, webinars. So on April 7th, we have Jacqueline Howe, and she is going to be doing on-the-job glitter. And
He's so amazing.
Yeah. And then we have Kathy again, and she's going to be doing roses.
Oh, nice.
And then Marcella Bustamante is going to be doing line work practice on April 20th.
Wow.
So a preview of some of the things coming up, and we've got, we're scheduled all the way through May. Wow. So we've got a lot of other people coming on. So lots of things to be aware of. We'll list them out up on the Facebook page and on our homepage. So just to be stay tuned.
Yeah, that's great, man. What some great classes that you have coming up. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so this one I'm going to start with this color right here. This is the new Fusion palette by Leon. It's a Happy Pixie palette, and this color right here is called Sweet Dreams Butterfly. Nice Easter color palette right there. Isn't it awesome?
That is awesome.
And so I'm using another Craze sponge, and I'm going to load up most of these colors right here. The other thing about these Craze sponges, which I think are really nice, is that they fit. They're not getting quite to this purple here, but they fit a much bigger area of your rainbow cakes than this one right here, which is going to end on this pink area. This one is a lot bigger, so you can get a lot more of the cakes. I know sometimes when I use these on cakes, I have to select, well, what area am I not going to get, because you won't get the whole area with these smaller ones.
Thomas asked on the last design, he wanted to ask about whiskers. Did you not use them for that design? I think there were whiskers on there.
No, I don't.
No whiskers.
There were no whiskers on that design.
Okay.
And you don't always need to have whiskers on. I don't know what these things are. Oh, this is her mouth. I was wondering what they were before. That's on the board.
Okay.
But you could put whiskers on if you want. I don't always put whiskers on kitties. That's, totally, if you want to do that, you could. So I'm just going to load this up this way. Oh, I've got that wrong. Let me use another one. I have it turned wrong.
I hate when that happens.
I know. Another sponge I have to wash. Okay, so I'm gonna have the pink at the bottom and the green at the tip. So I'm loading it this way instead. So that I get a nice load on there. Okay, and then I'm gonna use this for the eyelids first. And I'm gonna turn it so that the pointy part is down here, like this. So I'm just gonna dab that in there.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a beautiful, beautiful color combination. I love this. And you can go light slightly above the eyebrow, like that. And the light is shining on here, kind of weird. And then I'm gonna do this side. And see, I did the left side first and the right side second. So I'm learning. It's just easier to match and get them symmetrical that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I'm gonna, if you go and you get out of line, you can always clean up the edge with a baby wipe. I'm gonna clean these eyes off so they look better. These boards are super great. You just gotta remember that they're a little off as far as, facial features. There's usually never quite this much room between the eyebrow and the eyes, and there's usually never this much room between the. So always keep in mind when you're using these, how it's actually gonna work on a real person.
Mm-hmm.
Know that there's going to be some changes. All right, so I've got the eyes on there, and the next thing that we're gonna do, and I wanna get this sort of, get a fan off, get this to dry a little bit. But the next thing is I've got two stencils here. And one is an ooh stencil, an Easter one. And this one is, what is this one called? Why didn't I have it done? Oh, this one is called Easter egg blank.
Okay.
No. This one is called Easter bunny flip. Yeah, Easter bunny flip. And then this one is called, this is a Diva stencil, and it's called Easter egg blank, and it's just the shape of an Easter egg. And so I'm going to kind of use these together. You see how they sort of fit, that bunny fits right in that egg area there. So I'm going to line them up like this right now so I know where to place this. It's going to go right between the eyebrows. And
we've got the flip one. What's the other one called?
This one, this is a Diva one, and it's called Easter egg blank.
Okay.
And it's really nice because you can, get the shape of your Easter egg in there and use any color or pattern, and it will be in the color you want. So I'm trying to center this since they're clear. I'm leaving, I know that this is going to be the end here, and I'm leaving enough room because I'm going to be putting a flower down at the bottom. So I don't want to move this too far down. So you can sort of judge where it's going to go by having the two together. So now I know my bunny is going to go right there, and I'm going to load up a sponge. I'm using one of these yellow sponges for the stencils, and I'm spraying both sides with water. One side is going to be used for the paint, and the other side is going to be used for glitter. And I have just a white Mama Clown glitter dust here. And it's always make sure you have this ready to go when you're doing your stencils, so that you aren't in the middle of doing your stencil and then go, oh, I wish I would have had some glitter, and then you're trying to do everything with one hand and still hold the stencil there. So if you know you're going to be using glitter with this, make sure it's open and it's right there handy for you to use before you get to this part. And I'm using I'm using Craze White, and I'm going to load this sponge. And, just make sure that when you load it, it's sort of sticky. It's sort of sticking to the paint, and that's when it's going to work pretty good. And then I'm going to just tap this on here. With white, make my little bunny. And And I sprayed both sides of this sponge. So with this empty side, I'm gonna pick up my glitter with. So I don't have to get it on my paint. So here's my glitter. And then I'm just gonna tap that on here. So there I have a glittery bunny.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a glittery bunny.
yeah, there he is. Get that off of there. My glitter so it doesn't go all over the place. And then
Glitter always goes all over the place.
yeah, and then I'm going to use the same sponge again. You could just like respray it, but I'm going to actually pick up a little bit more paint in my palette here just to make sure I have enough. And then I'm going to lay this right down here where I had positioned it. And now I can tap this in here and make a multicolored egg out of this. I'm going to put a little yellow towards the top, fill that in with yellow, and then just lay the other colors down here. And you can sort of twirl this sponge around a little bit so you get some stripes going on. And so there I have a nice little egg with the
Easter egg bunny.
multicolored. Yeah. Okay. So there's that color. The next thing that I'm going to do while I'm waiting for this to dry, because I'm going to put a little face in him, but I want to wait for this to dry before I do that, is I'm going to put on where my tulips are going to go so that they can dry. And let's see, where's my paints? Where did I put them? There. I'm using this pink sorbet again. And I'm going to put a tulip here and a tulip here on both sides. This one is going to be bigger. This one is going to be smaller, and it's going to be yellow. And I'm going to leave a little space between the egg and my tulip because I'm going to put some leaves in here. So I'm going to start right here. And these tulips, they're going to be leaning a little bit this direction so that you've got that sort of flow that goes right around this area rather than having a tulip that goes straight up. It'll have more of a rounded curve to it, as if you followed that line, it would go all the way down to the corner of the eye. Mm-hmm. Give that flow. And tulips are sort of more flat on the bottom. They're more wider down here, and they're taller and narrower at the top. So I'm just going to keep that going like this. So this one is slanted this way, and then I'm going to do one over here that is slanted the other way. And I'm keeping the bottom of the tulip right on the eyebrow. So there's the tulip, there's those, and then I'm going to do a yellow tulip. All right. And after I do this part, I'm also going to show you a tulip, how I do it right on my skin, because this isn't going to show my blending technique on this board. So we're getting these base colors down, and then I'm going to just show you one on my arm. And then these can dry in the meantime. And you'll see that I'm putting the yellow right over this pink area that I brought above the eyebrow. And it's sort of mixing with this yellow, which is kind of ideal because tulips have sort of a mixture of colors and on them. And so don't worry about the fact that maybe some of this pink is coming up into some of this yellow, because it actually is making it look more realistic. Mm-hmm. And it's a nice way to kind of use that pink paint. I don't know if you can see that sort of just blending right in there. And that's a really nice little effect. So let me do one on my arm. I'm going to move this to the side for a second. And we're already at 5:42. Okay, let me do this really quick.
It always happens like this.
I know, I thought I was going really fast too. Okay, so I'm just gonna do this, my arm, and I'm putting the bottom flat and bringing it more up to a point or a pointed cut. It doesn't have to be always to a point. So there, it's like a really big water drop. It's flatter on the bottom and going up to a point. And then I'm taking this color. This is berry wine. It's Superstar berry wine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to not have a really wet brush. It's, again, more of a drier brush. I don't want a lot of paint on it. And then I'm going to just kind of paint some of that to create a shadow area on my tulip, on that petal right here. And then I'm going to do the same over here, only I'm going to vary it, and I'm going to make the darker part at the top just to give it some dimension and shape. And as you do that, it sort of blends in with the paint beneath it. And I'm going to show you a picture. Here's a picture of tulips that I found for just creating a tulip and how to do it. You see, tulips have these petals that are rounded like this, and they sort of come together. And there's usually a little spot right down here where you see beneath them. It's kind of the way the tulips are done. And so you see that in a lot of these different examples here. There's this spot at the bottom where it's darker in there, and the tulip leaves are rounded like that. And so that's kind of what I'm going for, is just to give it that sort of when you've done this part of it, you can also add some white in the same manner with more of a drier brush to give it a little bit more dimension. And you, knowing where your petals are going to be, you can give them kind of some highlights in there too. Something like that. And it's not showing up quite that great on them. All right, and at that point, then I would take my berry wine color on a really thin brush. This is a #1 low color. And I'm gonna make that little kind of rounded area that's between the two petals right down at the bottom, as if they were separated, and then sort of outline. This petal is going over this petal. Come down like that. And you can also throw in some, just these lines that go up like this, because a lot of the tulips have these sort of lines on them. So you really can't go wrong with it. It's a pretty simple thing to do. And then at that point, you can also come in with a little bit more white and just give those extra highlighted areas. Right on the top of that petal. This really brings that out. Just to give it some dimension. And that's how I do my tulips. I keep them closed like that. I don't have them open. So now that we're dry here, I'm going to finish off the face on this bunny, and then I'm going to do the rest of the princess tulip crown here. So on this stencil, there are 2 different faces you can choose from. I like the ones that have the eyelashes on them, so I'm going to use that right there. And I'm going to use one of these sponges. Some black here.
Oh, Anna, can we do these earlier? we always struggle with this. The issue is we have to balance out a lot of people in the United States, and it's harder to do them earlier. And can't do them later because I've got to eat dinner. So that's the limitation, I'm sorry to say. And most people have day jobs in the United States, so it's hard to make that work. I'm sorry. Sometimes when I have Europeans, it's on earlier.
Oh, I know it's tough to get all the time zones working. So here I've got my face on here, and then I have this powder palette I got a long time ago that I love, and I'm going to use some of this pink with just an old petal brush that I have, and I'm going to pick up some of that color, and I'm just going to give my bunny some rosy cheeks like that. And I'm also going to put it in his ears to give, since I have that color on here, I'm just using it for all of those different areas. So now I've added a little bit of color to my bunny. And so let's finish off our tulips here. And I'm going to do that same technique that I did on my arm. I'm just going to put a little bit of color in here to give them dimension. And put a little bit right here. And you can, I mean, tulips are pretty forgiving. They have little color areas all over. So you really, they're really easy to do. And then for the yellow, I'm going to use orange as my kind of low lights to give that dimension. And you see it already had some of that in it from that pink below. And I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to do my outlining.
Oh, that's Honduras. Sorry. Anna's from Honduras. So,
Honduras. Honduras? Is that what you said?
Yeah, although Honduras, you're falling asleep at this time of day. Isn't Honduras like an hour behind us? You go to bed early. Maybe you're in Switzerland right now. I think she's in Switzerland.
Wow. Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. That's crazy. I can't even imagine. Okay. And then I'm just using this color for all of my outlining. Again, I don't have any black. The only black I have is the bunny face in here.
So what color is that line?
This is that berry wine.
Okay.
It's a fab color. It's great for, you know, an optional outlining color than black. It's really a nice color. And yep, just get these. I'm doing them fast here. So there you've got your tulips, and I didn't put all the bells and whistles on them, but you get the idea.
Sure.
All right. And then I'm also going to outline my little egg there. I'm going to make it look a little cracked on top. Broken. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of lines on the sides like that. And when I come back in and do all of my highlights later with my white, I'm going to fill in this little area where he's going down into the egg there with white. But for now, we're just going to leave it as I'm coming back to it. And so the next thing is I'm going to add some daisies here, here, and here. And for that, I'm using a number 4 Stella Bustamante blazing brush because it has a long end to it. And I'm using it like I would use a petal brush, but I just want long, narrow petals. So just getting a good load on here. You don't want it too wet, otherwise it gets really messy looking.
Hi, Alicia. Shelley is watching from New Zealand, no less, where it's 11:51 a.m.
Oh, tomorrow. Craziness.
How is tomorrow? Is tomorrow okay?
Hi, New Zealand. That's amazing. I sprayed a little water into here, and then I wipe the end of my brush off like on a sponge so that I clean off that tip a little bit. And then just put it into the yellow to just put a little yellow on it of my brush like that. So I'm going to start in the center here and just add my petals. And so you just sort of lay your brush down like so to get those longer daisy petals in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like right here, like that. And then I'm going to do the sides. It's just to bring, like, to balance out my design. So I brought that element in here. I'm also going to bring it in on the sides. I'm starting to run out of paint, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, Romania, it's 2 a.m, dear Lord.
Wow. I'm so glad you guys are like sacrificing to watch. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Okay. So there's our petals for the daisy. And so now we're going to put in some little areas of leaves, and I'm using the Paint Pal Romantic Rose flat angle brush. It's like a 1/4 inch flat angle. And I'm going to use from this Fusion, it's another new palette from Brienne. It's the Pretty Rainbow palette. And I'm using this green one right here, which is called Garden something.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to pick up these 3 end colors right here. So we have that on our brush. And then I'm going to I'm just going to draw up some leaves that curve in towards this top focal point. Make sure they're curving in. And with this angle brush, you can get those tops to be a really nice thin line. One, there's 2. And I'm just turning my brush a little bit as I go up to the top to get to that point on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put some right in here, here, and here, just so I have kind of leaves going in those different sections. And then I'll put some down here too that go like down like this, that curve in towards the face. So it's just all leading in towards the center. That one got a little bit too long. Sorry. Okay, so there I've got my leaves. I'm going to put one right here too. I'm trying to hurry, so I'm.
Yeah, you're not going to make it.
I'm not doing that great of a job. Okay, so we got that part, and now.
Here's someone was asking about the stencil.
Yeah.
This is the link for at least one of the stencils, the Ooh stencil. Gilbert thinks that's a beautiful design.
Oh, thank you. So this stencil right here.
Yeah, that was the one I got.
Yeah, this is it's really a cute stencil. I'm going to put in my white line work now to make this design pop a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now we've got sort of, it's all nice, but once that white gets on there, it just creates so much more of a contrast in your colors, and it's just so much more interesting, and the color pops so much more. So I'm going to paint a little bit of white down in here because the bunny is kind of down inside the egg like that. And I'm going to put a little highlight right where the cracks are to bring that out. And then a highlight that goes up the side just to give that shape.
People loving this design. So universal praise.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to put some teardrops right in here. You can never have enough teardrops. And they just create that nice contrast. It's just, I don't know. I just love adding white to the designs. And then I'm going to put some dots right here in the center of this flower. And then on the sides, I'm going to put some Well, actually, I'm going to put some highlights on my tulips too, like I did on my arm, just to make them stand out more.
Mm-hmm.
It just gives them dimension and shape. Like so. And then I'm just going to put some little curlicues on the side, right over here.
Anna asked, how long would that take to do that on a kid?
It depends on, again, how practiced up I am. And neither of these designs that I've done today are going to take you, you know, they're not going to be like a 2-minute design. They just aren't. Probably 5 minutes once I've practiced up enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay. And when you have your system down and you've practiced them, it goes a lot faster. And there's certain shortcuts you can take too. I mean, you don't have to do all the highlighting or all of the colors in the tulips, whatever. You know, you can kind of cut back on some of that area. And then I'm just going to have little random dots that sort of lead you into the center, right on the ends kind of these flowers, just like that. And let's finish off her lips because she needs lips. She needs them. They're so pretty. I'm going to put them in this berry wine color, and they're just beautiful in that color.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just balances off the darkness of the color up here with her lips.
Hey Pam, since we're out of time, if you send me the sheet with sort of what it is and what you did for the third design that we didn't get to, I'll put it in our weekly email that comes out Friday.
Okay, I can send you. All right, so there you have it, the Tulip Princess design with the cool little lips.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 2 picture designs. And you know, the thing that I want to say, and you ask about how long it takes, you know, you can take parts of this design and create a simpler version. You know, this is kind of the whole meal deal, but say you just did, you know, 1 tulip and made it just a really small, a small crown or whatnot, or just used just this center part and just put curlicues on the sides. So you can take these designs and just customize them to fit a time slot. But this is, you know, showing you all the different things you can do.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Thanks.
Well, that's great. So that is great. We have now conquered Easter designs.
Yay.
And almost all of them. And thank you, Pam. This is, as always, I love your art. It's just so clean, fresh. I just think it's fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So next week we'll have Jacqueline on the job glitter, and we'll have Kathy Bergera on roses. So April 7th, April 13th, and we'll have Marcella Bustamante on April 20th. So
what a lineup. You got it.
What a lineup. Exactly. And I'm actually going to do body painting, which I resist that impulse on a regular basis, but I'm having Wolf Reichener, and he's going to do blacklight body painting on April 27th.
Oh, that sounds exciting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, that'll be interesting too. So, thank you very much, Pam, and hope you guys kind of, you know, just keep it together. Just try to keep positive.
Stay safe.
And stay safe. Absolutely.
Yeah. Be smart.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.